But straight line wind damage in many areas, including Windsor. Strong gusty winds over 90 kilometers per hour down towards Essex County. And could we see another round of this tomorrow? Of course, the big story today is the snow out west. Natalie Thomas is standing by to talk about that second part of our story. But this also becomes a pretty big story. After Friday's event, everybody's wondering, I mean, that terrible news coming out of the University of Waterloo with a young girl struck by lightning. Could we see another round two tomorrow? Well, let's get into it. Today, we're looking at a developing low in the Colorado region. We're seeing a warm front bring active weather through the states in the Midwest, like Iowa. But through Thursday, some heavy rain amounts with this low, 50 to 60 millimeters plus for extreme northwestern Ontario, and then down towards the south, 15 to 25 millimeters. Non-severe thunderstorm potential for today, but that's really just getting things going. It's all about tomorrow, and we'll show you how the humidex really kicks it up a notch tomorrow as well. Today, we're anywhere from about 21 degrees, maybe 20 up toward the north, and then 25, partly cloudy for Windsor. But once those humidity values come back into play with that due southeast wind, tomorrow, severe weather is in play for Sarnia down towards Windsor. We're going to have team field coverage, people out in the field doing their thing, and we'll be all over it. But lots more to talk about as we gear up for this next event. Plus, this Calgary, this was the scene. Full clothes, purchase, no winter clothes.
No, I know.
Sure looks fun.
Skipped a season. At this point in time, there are still snowfall warnings, not even for the snow falling now, but the heaviest is still to fall tonight.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting, Natalie, what is to come, because it's really not the low pressure system that we saw brought the initial snow that's going to do the job tomorrow. It's actually high pressure and more of an upsloping kind of setups. We'll talk more about that.
Exactly. Calgary, latest models, we were just taking a look at that. Calgary could pick up anywhere from 9 to 11 centimeters of snow.
Like this is real.
This is for real.
It's not just the dusting. Yeah, and temperatures very chilly, obviously. 0 in Calgary by tomorrow morning. Feeling, though, like about -4 and 3 degrees for Lethbridge at about -1.
Same thing as we head through the morning hours, even in Edmonton feeling like -2. So it's, across the board, across the province, and the eastern prairies are cooling as well.
The good news is that this is not going to hang around too long. You are going to start to warm up by the end of the week, back into the mid-teens, which you'll feel like you're on a tropical holiday compared to what you're seeing.
And speaking of tropical, let's show some scenes from southern Ontario, because Windsor tomorrow is going to be feeling like the mid to upper 30s.
Yeah, that's right. Total opposite trend going on in eastern Canada than what we're seeing out west. And we have the chance for active weather because of that heat and humidity, especially down towards Windsor. So 26 degrees is a base temperature, feeling like 36, as you mentioned.
Right.
First becoming a real rain story up in northwestern Ontario, but an active weather story possibly for southern Ontario.
It's interesting because a lot of these numbers, and we're working on updating these as well, some of the heavy rain could actually be south of Toronto and around Niagara Falls. And you mentioned thunderstorms. There could be more rain on top of that.
Right. And the difference between these thunderstorms and what Friday thunderstorms brought Ontario is likely more of a wind event and heavy rain. So we'll keep a very close eye. But yeah, there's a look at the humidex. So really warming up while we stay cold at west. Actual confirmed tornado through the area, as well as microbursts, so some straight line wind activity. We have another round of stuff like Friday. How bad could it be? It's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to talk about that right now. Let's take a look at the Storm Prediction Center's risk map that we have. That's from the states, from the National Weather Service in the states for today. So we have hail potential, tornado potential through states like Iowa. Slight risk in the yellow. The green indicates a lesser risk and just an overall thunderstorm risk. As we look into Wednesday, notice that yellow, that slight risk now includes southern Ontario, up the Huron shoreline, and over the Erie shoreline. So windy types of conditions are definitely going to be in play. Severe thunderstorms. So we talk a lot about CAPE. Have you ever heard of us talk about CAPE? Convective Available Potential Energy. That usually means the strength of our updraft. So if we have good CAPE, if we have good daytime heating, we've got a lot of energy in the atmosphere, we tend to get high CAPE values. We don't have a lot of CAPE that day, but what we do have is a lot of shear, and that means a change of direction and speed with our winds with height. That could be the risk for our tornadic potential through extreme southwestern Ontario. So while we don't have a lot of energy necessarily or thermodynamics, we have a lot of dynamics in the atmosphere with those winds. So we'll keep a close eye on it. Speaking of winds, the winds out west, very chilly today. If you haven't noticed, if you live around 12, But, you know, the thing is that we're still, you know, we're into September. I was talking to our meteorologist, Brian Dillon, behind the scenes. We are losing that daytime heating that we would see in July. So it's September. Our sun is in a lower angle in the sky. Our days are shorter. So we don't really have a lot of that energy that we would maybe on a hot July day. However, still could be talking about thunderstorms today, tomorrow. And I'll talk about how some of that heating plays a factor into tomorrow's setup momentarily. So non-severe thunderstorms today, temperatures by Wednesday afternoon, back into the heat, back into the instability. That is good for fueling storms, yes, but the prolonged amount of heat throughout a day are not going to, you know, it's not going to be like it is in July. We don't have that heat source, as I mentioned, for as long in the sky, and that's our sun. So what we do have going on, though, is something with our winds called shear. When we have our winds, if we think about the atmosphere in the 3D or in the vertical, when we have our winds changing direction as we go higher in the atmosphere, that's a bad thing. That's how we get storms to start to rotate. So while we don't have the energy or the thermodynamic component to our storms tomorrow, maybe that we would on another day, meaning that, you know, maybe we don't have the daytime heating, maybe our storms aren't structured and as beautiful as maybe they could be on a July day, they could have the potential to rotate. So we're not guaranteeing the chance of a tornado by any stretch, but there is a more likely chance of a tornadic storm tomorrow than there would be on Friday. Windy conditions, southwestern Ontario is really the one that we're focusing on. And there you go, the tornadic risk. You can see that the SPC is thinking the same thing, slight risk for Wednesday. We'll keep you posted on that. And thanks for keeping it here at the Weather Network. I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal. Could we see a round two of Friday's severe storms? Well, I want to show you the cloud tops. This is an infrared satellite image right now. This is an indication of where our active weather is in terms of just our cloud height. And when we think about thunderstorms, the higher the clouds are, the bigger the thunderstorms are. Right through parts of Illinois and Iowa and through the Midwest, we're seeing some cloud tops. If I play that for you, the purple is indicating the higher tops there. We have a potential for tornadic activity through Iowa today. This is the beginning. This is the warm front of the system that's going to work its way through Ontario tomorrow. I know it just seems like we just went through a severe weather event. We did on Friday, a ton of lightning associated with those storms. This one might be a little bit different. Today, we have non-severe potential today, but you could still see a thunderstorm week one. But then as we get into this evening, we see partly cloudy conditions, about 20 degrees, 21 degrees in Windsor, but then really heating back up tomorrow. So the return of the humidex, feeling like 36 degrees in Windsor, London at 32, Hamilton at 31. Here's the thing. A cold front that's expected to move through likely will not trigger storms until later in the afternoon or even in the evening. That's good news in that by that time our sun is starting to set, obviously, so we don't have the same kind of energy we would have earlier in the day. Here's the bad news, though. We have the isolated severe potential in this area, and we have the severe potential in the red down through extreme southern Ontario, through Essex County, Lambton County. That's because although our sun might be down, we still have energy in the atmosphere, but we have what we call shear. I'm going to have a chance to talk to Mark Robinson, our storm hunter meteorologist, a little bit more about shear. But basically, that's how we get storms to rotate. So there is a tornadic threat for tomorrow. We're going to keep a close eye on it. Most of it should stay stateside, but just in case, we want you to be prepared and keep it here at the Weather Network. All right, so our story continues. I should say continues. Really, Natalie, you have the lead story in my mind. So look at the backdrop behind you. Tell us more.
Do you love it?
I love it.
The snow? Okay, good. That's one of us. No, I'm thinking that most people in Alberta, I think people are split. So let's take a look at what we're dealing with in terms of snowfall amount. I'm talking about wind chills. You're talking about humidex values.
I know. I think people are going to like me more today, Natalie, based on... No offense.
None taken.
All right, let's get into the story. Yeah, could we see another round of thunderstorms like we did on Friday through Ontario? Well, we certainly have the heat in place, but there's a few different factors that we look for in the atmosphere that will dictate the type of storm that we're going to get. Are we going to get a type of storm that, sets up like a squall line, like what we saw on Friday, where they're all sort of linear and we get a gust front or straight line wind potential? That's what we saw on Friday. Really strong winds. We saw that shelf cloud moving through. Or are we getting more discrete cells where we see individual clusters of storms? Are they going to be rotating? These are the kinds of things that we're looking at one day out to make sure you're prepared with the information you need. Either way, keep it here the next 24 hours for both the snow story and the active weather in Ontario. Let's take a look. Non-severe thunderstorms today. Nothing to be too alarmed with, but you could see a pop-up thunder shower. Temperatures really getting back into those summer-like conditions. Polar opposite to the polar vortex, I guess, or the polar air mass that's out west. But 30 degrees in Toronto will be what it'll feel like at Pearson. Base temperatures around 26 degrees. So that's ingredient number one that we need for active weather, right? We need that heat instability. We needed parcels of air to be rising. We also need a trigger. We have a cold front that's going to be working its way through. In fact, that storm is coming out of Colorado and has already developed. We're seeing the potential for hail and tornadic activity along the warm front of the system that's moving through the upper Midwest, the states right now. As it gets closer tomorrow, we're going to see the potential for active weather, severe thunderstorms from Windsor, not quite to London, but let's say Lambton County, Essex County, so Windsor, Chatham, Leamington. We're going to have 3 field teams out tomorrow. I'm going to be watching it on radar all afternoon. And we have that ingredient that we talk a lot about, shear, wind shear. So winds changing speed and direction as we go up in height. So is it possible we could see a tornado tomorrow? It is. We'll give you a update every step of the way.